everyone, it's Denise Weniker, and we are live from my design studio. And we are so excited because we have our speaker tonight. So, every third Thursday we have our speaker series, and we have AnnMarie Sasso, and she's amazing, and she makes wood furniture, and I just can't wait to show you everything. So we're going to start in like 30 seconds, so just stay tuned and have some fun. See you later. Everybody wants a refill and wants to get some nice food. We're going to get started. Awesome. All right. Well, hi everyone. As you know, I'm Denise Weniker. I'm principal of DW Design Decor. So we are an interior design and build firm, and we specialize in whole house projects, multi-room projects, kitchens, baths, and all sorts of wonderful things, new construction. So we're ingrained in the community, and we love having these events to see your face and to be able to have all these wonderful speakers come and share their knowledge with us, because we always want to learn and grow and be together. Also, what I have is after these events, I don't know if you know this, but I post them and I blog them. So if anybody is sad that they missed it, because now they're getting FOMO because look at all the people that are coming these every month, they can certainly tune in and see it on the blog. So it's deniseweniker.com/blog, and then everything is going to pop up. I also hope that you guys will be following us on Instagram and Facebook. So that's at DW Design Decor. And we show our projects. I post many times a week, so we have site visits and all sorts of cool stuff that we're doing. So stay tuned and just come follow us and hang with us. So also, I think I have everybody's email here, but if not, please feel free to sign in the book so we can keep you on our list and let you know of the future dates, save the dates for our speakers. So we want to see more of you. We are going to do this every third Thursday, as I said, of the month for the whole year. So we've got great speakers, so fun. And of course we have great snacks. And have to let Holly know. Very good. Wonderful Holly, project manager and assistant, and she's awesome. She loves to cook, and this is all homemade. So feel free to taste everything from cold soup to delicious desserts as well. So thank you again, Paul. Now I would like to introduce you to AnnMarie Sasso. She's a local artist here in Croton-on-Hudson, and she combines her artistic vision and a love for nature to repurpose fallen lumber into unique live edge furnishings and wood art using her own sawmill. Can you imagine? Look at this little person. She's got her own sawmill. She also works for a structural steel engineer. She volunteers as a 4-H leader and is a founder of Nature and Animal Assisted Intervention Program, helping traumatized youth. So please join me in welcoming AnnMarie Sasso.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your lovely spread. This is an honor, actually, to even be considered as a guest speaker. Thank you, Denise, for introducing that mini bio. That was perfect. I don't have to go into that again. I consider myself a homesteader. I like to consider myself a homesteader. I love farming. I love the whole agricultural component. I've been volunteering, and I've also had an opportunity to do some vocational skills teaching through the Westchester County Cornell Extension Office as well as the Putnam County. So 4-H takes me as many places as it does youth. If you're familiar with that, we can talk about that later. But it's important because it is kind of how I found myself where I am today, owning a sawmill. Years ago, my husband and I started a business. I want to say late 90s. We formed a corporation. I was the office person. He was the worker. We burned the midnight oil. We burned the candle at both ends. We both worked for other contractors. He was an operating engineer worker as well. And we did a lot of work. We did septic, we were licensed septic contractors, we did some blacktop, plowing, you name it. While we both worked. So we're workaholics. We, that was a good stretch. And, about 10 years into this, we started to get less work. 2009 hit, sort of a recession. We found it very competitive. We found the insurance to be astronomical. Fortunately, because we both had working jobs and we were able to still get a paycheck, we had to make a really difficult decision to, dissolve the business. I was not ready. Meanwhile, I'm working more as a volunteer. I'm consulting with some local farms, and I was asked through the extension office to go help a farmer in need. I think they were a little bit out of their hands, and they couldn't really organize, their animals, and they needed help. So I was going there to consult. I was organizing his management of livestock and the health care of the animals and getting them back on track. And he owned a sawmill. So as I'm there checking in, taking care of some of the animals, I'm watching this fascinating piece of equipment mill this wood, and all these beautiful pieces of spalts that are coming out of all this wood. But I saw that it was a lot wasted. There was slugs everywhere. They weren't, milling and really doing anything with some of the wood. It was going to waste. I asked if I could have some. I started collecting things, bringing them home, making charcuterie boards, and incorporating that into my homesteading. I was always involved in farmers markets and making goat milk soap and all the other fun stuff. But this was really, I was really hooked. So I said to my husband, okay, don't sell anything else yet, okay? I think I want to buy a sawmill. Okay. Sounds like a lot of money. I don't know how you're going to buy this. I said, don't worry, I got a plan. I got a plan. So, and I hope I go in the right direction. We'll get back to that plan. During the slide, we're going to identify what a millable log would look like. We're going to go through what we need to do to prepare a log before it gets milled while it's sitting. The milling, stickering, what that looks like, and how to do that properly so it air dries over that period of time before it gets kiln dried. The relevance of kiln drying, why it's important. How do we price lumber if we're selling it, which is not what we really do. And the different types of language that we use to identify the different beautiful things that nature leaves with some of these slabs when you expose it after milling. And the techniques of live edge furnishings. So back to my plan. I said, I'm going to sell a Cadillac. So I did. I don't need a Cadillac. I can't put slabs in it. I can't put goats in it. A little pretentious of me to be driving around as a farmer in a Cadillac. So we got rid of it. And I put that toward what I was going to do was buy a sawmill. And it's a little overwhelming, but through this farm and some of the other people that were also helping mill there, I met a really cool guy who said, I'll help you. You want to mill? I'll help you learn all about it. Talk about, how to set up a kiln. And we started to visit all of these different mills and companies out in Jersey, out in Connecticut, these big factories. Now that was big commercial operations, but I really wanted to get an idea of pricing. Is this worth it? How do they dry? They had pretty sophisticated systems. And I brought all this information back and I said, I'm going to do a home kiln. I'm going to buy that sawmill. So we did. I bought a Timber King 1220. It's a manual, it's not a hydraulic. Hydraulic is like 3 times as much money. So this particular mill I love. I could literally walk and operate it myself. My son could operate it. The track is about 17 feet long. I could mill up to about 34 to 35 inch diameter or circumference logs, which can give you a pretty decent slab. And we recently purchased the transfer kit, which hooks onto this, and I can pull this with my Jeep. My 4-door Jeep, not even a Gladiator, because it weighs about 800 pounds or so. It's under 1,000. So I could mill on site if I need to. So I thought that would be pretty neat to add to that. Owning a mill requires all the other construction equipment. You need to have a nice piece of machinery, a forklift, a backhoe, to get your logs on here. You need to be able to have some sort of forks to pull all your logs, put all your slabs somewhere, and be able to relocate them if need be. So it's a labor-intensive project. I knew I wasn't going to do this by myself, so I'm really glad I talked my husband and my son into, you know, this really cool family project. So this is what it would look like. This is a slightly larger machine, and unfortunately I looked through all my catalogs on my phone and I didn't have one 1220, but it looks very similar. This is a slightly larger machine, obviously, so it can take a much larger log. So there's these brackets that hold the log in, and there's a meter measure here that lifts it up and down. It's basically a gigantic bandsaw with a big giant, now we just moved over to a carbine blade because we wanted to see if that's going to, you know, mill sharper. There's a lot of things that you need to learn about the logs that you're taking into mill, because if there's any metal in here, you're going to break your blades that are $60, $100 a piece, and you'll go through them like crazy. So other little contraptions like meters to measure any kind of metal in the wood, or just know where it came from. And that was the biggest thing that was important to me, is that I want locally sourced wood. I'm not going to have companies drop off wood that fell or trees that they took down, because the likelihood, especially understanding agriculture and being involved in all these agricultural related programs, there's a lot of danger in bringing and transferring logs that have all of these ash borer bugs and all these other insects that are killing our trees, right? So locally sourced, I do my best not to accept a log that potentially was a diseased log. And I don't mill to sell lumber. I mill because it's a cool piece, I know where it came from, and I want to create something beautiful. I want to repurpose it, I want it to be sustainable, and I want it to continue to have a purpose. So, let's see. This is a planer. So this planer could plane up to about 27-inch width slabs. It's very important. Otherwise, you'll be sanding till the day's long. You'll be sanding for hours and it'll never be straight. But it's a dangerous piece of equipment. Very dangerous, very loud. I'll go through it real quick. I think it's a 3 second or so. That's loud. But that's a beautiful piece of walnut, by the way. It does.
Yeah.
It's planing. So it's doing a great job. You would put that through, you would turn it around, turn it upside down, put it through again, turn it around, turn it, and you learn how to make your slab, take it out of a potato chip situation. This is a beautiful piece of walnut. Let's go again. So, my husband is a welder. He says he's not. He has welding machines from his great-great-grandfather and this one and that one. And he said, I know nothing about welding. Okay, I can't weld tables. Here's him welding. I'm not going to put the video on it. But I had him weld feet on legs. He'll cut legs for me. He'll re-weld, you know, any kind of saddle, crossbar to make a stable, better, you know, seat for that, for the legs. Okay, I'm going to show you what mill looks like. This again looks like a piece of walnut. A lot of times, instead of pulling out that takes a lot to try to pull and twist and bend. If we can, we like to put it back on the mill and skin it. It's faster, it's easier, and you actually can achieve almost a better, we've learned along the way that this works much better. So I can put this on for a moment. So basically, it's my hydraulic, so you're turning, and we're spinning with it.
So is the blade horizontal then?
So the blade, it's like a bandsaw, the blade is circulating,
Right.
and while that blade is circulating, we're rolling the motor and we're
So
cutting.
you're going on the edge.
Correct.
It's the edge. Okay, but you're not. So
We're
you're-
taking a slice right off.
Okay.
So this giant bandsaw, just like you would in a tabletop bandsaw that has a circulating blade, this is kind of doing the same thing, but it's
So the
skinning.
planer gets the horizontal.
The planer is
It's like a giant
it's like a
plane.
It's like a giant box, and you put the wood through, and that has blades internally.
Right.
We found that if we could, we use our mill plane as much as we can, than taking that big dangerous machine.
So does that give you a much rougher edge?
It does, it does. So there's
Okay.
still hand sanding involved.
Right.
Every single thing we do, there is quite a bit of
Lots.
sanding, but I enjoy the sanding. I enjoy the sanding because I sand with one hand and I feel with the other. So as I'm sanding, I'm
Sanding by
feeling
hand?
wax on, wax off. Yes.
Not with a machine. It's not with
Palm sander.
right.
So high grit, low grit all the way up to high grit. And it depends on what you want to achieve, and we can get into that on how high of a grit you want to get to.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't want to get that high of a grit. I don't want that smooth of surface because I'm looking for a more natural look for whatever the purpose of that slab is going to become. So, let's see.
What?
No. Okay, let's see. All right.
Why not using a sander? You said that you hand sand it, right?
I use a palm sander.
Palm sander,
You know,
yeah.
palm sander. Sometimes I have to use a grinder,
Okay.
for some of the,
Rougher.
to get some
Yeah,
of the live
yeah.
edge off, some of the bark. And sometimes some of the wood can pick out because if it's really dry
Yeah.
and you put it through the planer, you might
Right, yeah,
break it apart.
yeah.
So it really depends on
The kind of wood.
the delicacy of the wood and whether or not it should go through the planer, should we put it through the mill, should we skin it? You have to be very careful. You see how close this
Mhm.
bar is. If it got any closer, this blade, see the blade?
Yeah,
That blade can hit that. So it is,
Right.
you really have to be extremely careful, use a lot of, safety precautions, gloves, hat, gloves, goggles. This particular slab we just did recently, remember the Merwood oak that fell
Mhm.
over in Vassallo? The town asked, or Croton 125 actually, that committee asked if I could make something with one of the logs. So we milled one log that we were able to, that survived that, the whole entire tree was rotted. It was just so sad, but fortunately it fell when the park was empty, because that really could have hurt somebody, killed somebody actually. So we had one log in this big pile that we found. I said, I'll take that one. The town dropped it off, and we milled it. Only one of that swamp maple, which was loaded with moisture, survived out of about 4 or 5 slabs. This particular log, there was 2 of them actually. This slab we skinned after it dried, and it did what it had to do. It cupped a little bit, kind of got a little bit out of, wonky, so we had to slab it, we had to skin it to get it nice and straight, and I was able to make a beautiful table for the town, which I'm really excited about. I don't want to show the video we already watched, so I'm going to skip that. Okay, we're off to, what should we know? I would probably take a chance at some of these logs, not this one. The likelihood, when their end pieces are cut this way, they're probably not going to mill and not going to have too many, successful slabs coming out of that. I wouldn't mill anything here. Probably all rotted throughout. There's probably a ton of bugs that you got to try to evacuate, get out of your pieces, otherwise they're not, they're going to wipe someone's home. So I probably wouldn't mill anything, but I might try one of these. There's a thing called punky, so I would feel with my thumb all around, and if at the very end where the bark is has a little bit of softness, I might take a chance. But if it's more than an inch into the center where it's all soft, that tree is probably all right. Or that log, whatever's left of it. These are stress cracks, they're probably all the way through. Hollow centers, I wouldn't. This is, best for fireplace. Ceiling. This is very important. After we get a hold of a log, it's going to do, again, find a friend's log that fell in their backyard. Okay, we'll see if we can save it and make something of it. You have to end seal. There's this called anchor seal. It's a greenwood sealer. I've run out of this, and I could use oil paint, old mix of cans left over of polyurethane, anything oil-based or wax that would protect the end, because what's happening is as you start to dry, we also knock the bark off, because that'll keep moisture and could, begin to get bacteria rot in there. That's where the moisture is going to release. That's the only point of exit is closest to the end. So if you seal those ends, the moisture will slowly release, but if you don't, you're likely going to have a big cracks, and it's just going to keep going further and further in. And then you're going to mill a log and wind up with this much left. So you anchor seal. This is called a cookie or a slice. I don't know what anybody else refers to it as. So that's a trunk, that was cut horizontally, not a slab. Those are the most difficult things to dry, because all the moisture is coming out from the middle, and it has nowhere to go but this way. So usually the whole thing splits at the end. Very rarely you will find a nice, beautiful, round cookie that has little splits. So I've been painting the heck out of these corners, and they're coming along pretty nice. That was a maple tree. It has some beautiful spalts and things that all the beetles have left in there, and I have about 4 of them. I want to say they're probably maybe 24-inch in circumference, maybe a little bit bigger. They're about almost dry and ready to go. You need to bring your moisture down to at least under 14%. So typically that means about an inch per year for drying, air drying. There's a couple of ways. Some guys like to just cut, let it dry for a month, throw it in a kiln, and sell it. I feel that drying it over time is a better way that you'll achieve better results. It keeps all of that beauty, it does it less warping, and if they're stickered properly and sitting properly and air drying, that's the most natural way to do it. And then at the end, before you want to begin working with your piece, that's when you would put it in your kiln to finish it off. I'll show you what kiln. We made a home kiln. So I bought a shipping container. Called this company and I said, I need one that's going to float in the ocean. No air, no, nothing, so it's going to leak. And we insulated it. We installed just a home dehumidifier, which is on 24/7, every day of the year. We've probably gone through 3 of those in the last 6 years, so that's not bad. It's not an industrial type, it's a home, and we have it going out, and then we insulated the pipe so we continue to just dug in the ground. All winter long it's running. And all that's doing is drawing the moisture out. So we have some pieces in here, it's almost empty. I don't particularly dry in the winter because it's hard to achieve that heat in this cold weather, even though it's insulated. This is my little project. I come in when we work drying. I'll have check the temperature. I write down, the moisture. I go in there with my meter and I write little notes on things. This is not a very good picture, but we will set up all these fans and getting all the air through here. What we did try is a pellet stove, and that worked pretty good. This year, I just purchased, again, there's a whole network of people that love to help each other. Hey, how did you do it? And I tried this method, and I tried that method. So someone sent me a whole list of all of the things that they've purchased, and he uses reptile heaters. So we're gonna install the reptile heaters, and you really only have to get up to a certain temperature in a short period of time. So if you can get that kiln up to about 100 to 120 degrees for like 6 hours, you'll finish off and kill all the bugs that are living in there. They'll come out, they're done. You don't have to worry about them anymore. Otherwise, you really only need to keep that temperature consistent for like 70 degrees for about a week, and it's dry. But I won't put anything in here to dry until it's at least below 30%. Because what's the point? It needs to just air dry on its own naturally. Stickering. After we mill, everything gets stickered. That's what this is called. This is, not a very good example because we've been picking at this pile, but if you notice, all the stickers are in exact same row. All of the space in between is the exact same, and there's usually some, weight on the top, and that will help those slabs dry evenly. Because believe it or not, if you start moving stickers here and there, you're going to wind up with bumps all through your wood. It's natural. It's going to do whatever it wants to do. So you try to help it, set it up. This is going to sit here for a year. That was sitting like that for 2 years. I'm using wood that we're pulling out that we've had for 4 years, and I'll just start to use that now.
You covered it all, or you just?
I do.
In
I
the rain,
babysit
or?
it. These are our babies. So I went up here when it was snowing the other day. I said, all right, it's good enough. I pulled that. I said, kind of swept a little bit off. So I developed this relationship with this wood. These are my babies. I care for them for a long period of time. I know where every piece came from. So yeah, it's very personal to me that these wind up and they don't get wasted. I get upset when I go to use them and they're all, the bugs got to them or they got rotted. That was the whole purpose of me going into this when I saw the potential of, saving all this beautiful wood and seeing it going to waste. So that was my whole motivation. So I'm going to go into my very first project, which was when we first got the mill. This gentleman I mentioned to you, who was like a mentor, and said he stuck around for about a year and he got a big job, and I said, okay, let me take a step back and kind of understand where I want to go with this. We made some barn doors, and it was a big job for me, but he walked me through the whole thing. My husband helped as well, and this was a project that Denise actually commissioned us for. So this was really cool. When I show you the next picture, you're going to get it. We had to take 3 different pieces of oak, black oak, white oak, and red oak. And then we glued them up after we planed them all, so they were just almost precisely the exact same thickness. We glued them up, 2 doors, and then we stained them with a pickled, finished mix with like a gray. So these 3 pieces and species of oak had 3 different colorations. And there they are. So,
Wow.
if you look here, this is tile. This is tile and wood, which tells you how well these natural components work together. So Denise gave us these tiles and we matched as best we could. This is a recess handle or pocket handle, so we had to hand route, chisel, and pocket the handles. This came behind here and slid over instead of a bifold. This was a slider door, right? We also had to install a header. These were heavy. These were heavy, probably 200 pounds a piece. So we roped everybody in. I'm the film person. There's my husband. There's my friend James, actually, that we all did a lot of this work together, and took quite a while to hang them because it had to be precisely level. God forbid, you don't want a 200-pound door sliding and closing on its own. But we achieved that, and I saw them recently, so I know they're still hanging. That was fabulous.
How'd you glue the strips together?
With Titan Bomb glue, so it's really just, and biscuit joints. So we biscuit jointed, glued, hand planed all the glue off, and giant clamps, about a week. They were glued. So if you see the difference, this is probably the red. I wish the color was different. It looks more of a putty, that gray that was really popular. Still kind of is popular. So that was a really fun project. That was a great experience for me. We'll talk about book match. Has anybody ever heard of book match? So that's when two pieces are a mirror of each other. One slab and then the next slab. And you almost butterfly them and book match, and they're a mirror of the same. I still have these pieces actually. I haven't done anything with them yet. So what you would do is you would put that through an edger, get it nice and straight, glue that together. So this is a walnut book match. This is a sugar maple. This was a sugar maple. This had to come down on the farm, unfortunately, because they were putting a barn in. I didn't want them to get rid of the tree, so I milled it, and that's where that log came from. So, board foot. Does anybody know how to calculate board foot? Does anybody have an idea of what this would cost if you just went to Danes or Condon's? If you ever gone to Condon's, what do you think you'd pay for this slab? Raw. Probably about $350. Maybe more, because they like to just add some arbitrary number because it's a specialty piece. Okay? So board foot. You take the length times the width times the thickness, and then you divide it by 144 to get your board foot. So I just did a little example here. So 5 foot long foot long slab, approximately this, 60 inches, 24 inches is the width, 2 inches thick. You time those, divide by 144, you got 20 board feet. Market value or market price for specialty wood right now is about $16 a board foot. And you're buying whatever's twisted, checked at the ends. They don't care. You're buying the whole thing. You get what you get after you take off what you don't need. And they charge extra for specialty, more spalting, the larger pieces, they might even add up to $20 a board foot. So a piece like this, if I were to buy this, especially because it was as long as it was, this was one long piece. I think it was 14 or 16 feet or so. So we made this waterfall leg. It's not the width. This might be $300-400, probably about $400 for this piece right here, raw. That's your board foot. Oops. Burls.
Wow.
You've seen burls, right? There's burl poachers. And I shame them all the time because you take this burl off this tree dies. You've killed everything in the tree, you've killed everything living in the tree. It's done. It won't survive. It's a big, giant, gashing wound. You give that tree a year, it's gonna die. But this is why they do it, because you get this really cool burl. It's really hard. It's usually almost like that piece could have been considered a burl. That piece there. It's hard as a rock. That's a synthetic, but burls are usually very hard. What this is bacteria, fungus, beetles, bugs, and disease that just grows on these trees. And I'm sure you've all seen burls. I've had a few people come over and go, what are you doing with that burl? I said, nothing, leave it. That's in our driveway. The tree is in decline. So when we're ready to take the tree down, of course we'll take the burl off. And we'll mill it and wind up with some beautiful pieces. But until then, we're just letting it grow. So, cherry. Did you see that pile? Almost looked like a fingerprint. Almost looked like a mitten. Okay. It had a little bit of a crack. So, I wanted to try to keep that beautiful pattern. So we cut it, glued it back together. We added a couple of bow ties using epoxy. So we inlaid epoxy, and I wanted it to look like metal. And I felt it needed sleek legs. So there's a lot of thoughts about the composition of when you're starting to make the furniture, when you're starting to design things. This is from the exact same piece. Not this piece, but the next slab. These two, we tried to book match as best as we can, and my son actually worked a lot on this piece, this bench. Cherry darkens over time, and it depends on what type of finish you're going to put on. If you're going to use shellacs and things, you might wind up with a little more of an orange look. This piece is really dark right now. I pulled this picture out, which is when we first made this, and I take a look at this now, and I'm like, wow, it's really dark. It's just natural. So if you ever have cherry cabinets, you might notice that they darken over time, depending on how much they've coated them with whatever they're using to cover them. So that's a cherry. Recently, I started working with epoxy. I like it because everybody else seems to think this is very trendy. I guess it is pretty cool. This would be considered a river table. I've been working where I'm adding some river rocks right here from the Croton River. I make a lighter base where I use a clear on top. This here, this is a clear coat, and underneath is where the epoxy is. So I've done a few pieces like this where I've actually sprinkled some river rocks, and that really, really looks beautiful. You're looking down and you feel like you're looking right into a real, bath of clean lake. This is a piece of cedar up here with some fuchsia, and I think Jeff bought that for his son for Christmas last year. So these are just some pieces. This is a cookie here that, again, not too bad, didn't split too bad. So I just filled some cracks with epoxy. This is also another maple, so this is walnut, that's maple. This here, this is considered sapwood. It's not an all walnut. It really depends on where the tree was living, how much access it had to water, and that would depend on how much sapwood is in the exterior trunks of the walnut. Sometimes you won't find any. There's also, people not get confused, but there's different types of walnut too. There's black walnut and walnut. Have you ever heard both? And everyone is black. They look the same. The difference is the walnuts are black, the walnuts are not that black. That's different. That's the only difference. Some of the walnuts might be slightly larger. Everybody thinks walnuts are a messy tree. I've had people come over or ask me to come over and take a look at a tree, and I've talked them out of taking the tree down. I'm like, just walk across somewhere else. It's a beautiful tree. Why? It's a very sought out for these furnishings because it's versatile in decor. It's very dark, it's chocolate. It's pretty durable. It has these beautiful, beautiful colors in there. So there's a lot of people just taking them down to take them down. People taking them down think because they can sell them and make $3,000. After I explained all the work that's involved, the log is not worth $3,000. Because you're going to lose 40% of that log during the whole process, probably from warping, checking, you know, not being viable in certain portions of it when you mill it. You need to have large construction equipment to pick it up, right? So you have to mobilize it with a low bed and a tractor and a trailer. If you think that someone's going to give you $3,000 and then pay for all that labor to come and get it, that's not really realistic. So a lot of people say that tree's worth a lot of money, and they'll call and say, I got this tree and I was told it's worth $5,000. I don't want to be rude, I'm very kind, but it's not really worth that much.
And there's some trees that spawn those, we used to call them sunflowers.
The stink balls, but they're really big and round and
Yeah,
hard, and
right.
they will do damage on your car if they fall.
And that's, what is that, the black walnut?
That's, well, if they're larger, and I don't remember the difference, one is called black walnut, one is just called walnut, and it really just determines the size of the walnut that makes it either black or just walnut. Inside looks the same.
I have a couple of them.
Let me know if they fall.
Yeah.
They fall, I'll pick them
Not the
up.
balls.
Don't park near it. So, a lot of people say the ambrosia maple, that's not an actual species. That is just what happens from the ambrosia beetle. Almost all maples wind up with this ambrosia beetle. It gets in there, there is the female that is pregnant, and they lay their larva, and then they climb out and disappear, and then their larva is the next cycle. And while they're in there, they're eating, you know, your tree, and they're chewing on it. They're releasing these excretions, which cause all this wormy stuff going on. Some people call it wormy maple. This is a piece I've actually brought to give you an example. It reacts with some of the moisture and the gases in the natural wood, and it creates all this really beautiful spalks and things. That's as a result of the beetles living in the wood. You're almost always going to find that, but the older the tree, the more likely you're going to wind up with this result. If it's a brand new healthy tree and you're milling it, you're probably not going to find all this stuff living in it. So this would be considered an ambrosia beetle maple or ambrosia maple.
Is
It's
bird's
just a
eye
maple.
The same?
Mhm.
Is bird's eye the same?
I don't think that's a species of.
No, I mean, it's where it has these like little, it looks like eyes that go over the.
Oh, that's probably just like another expression, like calling this wormy maple, because the way that the spalks occurred during the activities of the bugs living in it, yeah. So there's the ambrosia maple or wormy maple. This is a lot of fun. I love and you know, when you start to sand this, you can sand some of that off. So I only get as far as I can. When I start to see that disappear, with the colors changing, it doesn't look as nice, I leave it. And that was why I left this. I left it with some saw cuts in it, and I thought, you know what, this is a really natural piece. I thought about the composition of how I would incorporate this into a home decor, and it screamed to me Asian theme. So I thought these legs complemented this piece. So that's, yeah, each piece deserves a different, it's like a painting deserves its type of frame. And the frame that's going to complement the painting is what you want to do when you create or find a piece. After all the work, I don't feel some of these pieces need anything more, you know. So some of them I cover really well, or maybe do 2 or 3 coats and finish, and some I don't. Some I've just left with mineral oil. So it really depends on the use, the purpose of it, where it's going to live, where it's going to wind up. And that's for that piece. Powder post, these are the worst. These bugs are like little tiny black dots. And if you can look more. Now, it looks really cool, but if I didn't put this in the kiln, which I did not, and I brought this into my home, and it got really warm in the summer, and I had it near the window, and all these little black bugs were all over the floor, and all this little powder was sitting.
Wow.
They eat through anything. Now they'll come out, and once they're drawn out from the heat, they die. They don't live very long. So you hope that they didn't lay any larvae. But if this went in a kiln at 120 degrees for a couple hours, they're done. They're not going to come back out. They're not going to reinfest unless this piece is outside next to another slab that has a whole colony of caterpillars and beetles. But it looks really cool. This is a birch, which I love birch. I think birch is really beautiful. Again, this just is this fills my palette. This natural look, I don't need to make it straight into a dimensional piece. It's beautiful the way it is. Again, I wish I had a better picture, but this is probably about 7 feet long. I know Malcolm has borrowed this piece a few times, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty long, and it has square stock legs, and it serves beautiful as a sofa table, or, you know, if you have a large enough space. Here's more ambrosia beetle. I have a few of these pieces. I mean, I can sit here and just stare at it forever. I think about all the things that lived in it. And this is what I probably would be more considered a wormy maple. It's still a maple. It's the same tree. It's the same maple. So we did this waterfall. Does anybody know how to achieve that? You take your piece, you cut it at a 45-degree angle, and you take this bottom piece and you cut that at another 45-degree angle, and then you hope that you could match it to all these. If you've done that, okay, that's hard. It's hard when you are not a skilled, trained person like myself, but we did that, and these matched beautifully, and then I took, and I call it peekaboo. I added a little bit of epoxy here and there. This looks like a little pond, you know, reminded me of a pond, a little piece up there. And this piece I left. So I don't always incorporate metals into legs. I think some pieces deserve their own legs with their own beauty. Keep it in the family. This was something I really enjoyed doing. A lovely woman in Croton bought this piece. It was in a week, and it's in her living room. And I feel like part of me is in her home. And she is lovely, and she always comes in and talks. So I feel like we have a personal relationship because she took something I made and she brought it into her home. So this is the Merwin oak. We just brought this and delivered it last Friday. So this is what we milled, I was showing earlier. We did a couple of bow ties. We wanted it to look like we were, you know, just put a little Band-Aid on that broken oak, right? This tree was a 235-year-old tree. This is a landmark of Croton. And I'm honored that they actually put this in the village hall. And, you know, it worked again, the composition. It was like this little alcove or incove was made for this table. They put a beautiful painting up there from a local artist, that's the dam. And that's
Are the bow ties walnut
Yes.
by any chance?
yes.
Because they're dark.
Yep, they're walnut. You know, some people say that is supposed to hold it together. I'm not sure if it does. I think it's more for aesthetics.
Right.
You know, it looks like put a little Band-Aid on the whole broken tree, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it looks really cool. I love it. This is something else that's very new to me. I'm just learning. This is a new skill for me, and you know, I'm a work in progress. Okay, and that's the end. that was from working with Cornell Cooperative Extension and doing some agricultural programs. I created this nature-based program at this agency down in Valhalla, and we did hikes and tree identification, and I love to learn, especially if I have a youth to learn with, which is very inspiring. But my husband is also very knowledgeable in trees. You know, he can scope out any kind of tree, and you learn. You learn by the bark of the tree. I can learn by the trunk, you know, looking inside the trunk, trying to figure out.
In my case, a lot of the furniture I pick up, once I strip it, I'm like, okay, what is this? I have no idea.
Beech has a smell to it. Ash is hard as a rock, and it's very blonde. You don't find that because there's that ash borer that really wiped out a lot of the ash trees. Sad. We lost quite a few species of trees, so we have, you know, a few left.
Any other questions?
Do you do any labor work?
Maybe my next.
I was gonna say.
That's next. Yeah.
Are there trees that don't tend to get
No, I
fungus?
just.
Do cedars get a lot of worms in them?
No, actually, cedar does not. And cedar dries very fast, it's very light. I love cedar, and a friend of ours just had a tree, I don't know if it came down or if it was damaged, and he brought it over, and we milled a bunch of things, and their son was getting married, so we made like chargers, and we made a box to put all the envelopes in out of the cedar, and I love cedar. It smells so good. It's very light, and like I said, it dries quick. So that would be one that I would say that I don't recall ever seeing any damage from insects from cedar.
That's why you have cedar closets.
Right, and cedar chests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cedar closets
They don't
are
like
very popular.
Very
Yeah.
popular. They are able to absorb moisture.
Yeah.
They don't rot. They make great charcuterie boards.
What about
Go
these,
cedar.
What about these invasive species, lantern bugs and all that?
The spotted lanternfly, they're eating and killing all of our heart of
Heaven?
heaven
Art
trees.
of
Heaven, yeah.
Yes, I heard that.
Yes, they're pretty much wiping them out. And
I
after
feel
that,
those
I don't know
ones.
what they're going to eat, but they'll be desperate, and they'll probably develop a different digestive system or system that could begin to attack other trees.
Right.
The good thing is, and again, this is all the things that I learned through Cornell Extension. We're supposed to share all our knowledge. We learn about all these different biodiversity things and how to live harmoniously and what is not living harmoniously, and diseases and livestock and things. And the spotted lanternfly has been a threat for a couple of years. Now I'm seeing them. First time I saw one at my house this summer, I felt like I was under attack. It was very eerie, right? But the birds are starting to learn that they're food, and praying mantis are returning because they've learned it's food.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they'll work their way into the ecosystem, and they'll figure out they're not the bullies after all, and we'll get it under control. I'm hopeful because there's studies that are showing that. You know, because they're colorful and they're weird looking, and nobody knew it was food, not nobody, like animals and people, but they are starting to learn that they are a source of food now. So hopefully we'll get a handle. Thank you. Really?
I had no idea. I mean, did anybody know the start to finish of
No.
how this all
Not at
was?
all.
I didn't even know what a sawmill looked like. So, but if you get a chance, like come and look at these pieces that she's loaned us, which I wish that she would keep. I'm kind of loving
We can
it.
work something out.
But take a closer look. They're just spectacular. They're beautiful and great work. And
Thank
they're
you.
all-
Awesome.
Yeah.
everybody thoroughly enjoyed this. I can't believe that I didn't even know the start to finish of some of these pieces that I specified. So I hope you really enjoyed everything. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be blogging, and I will have this all available on my website soon. And come and join us in person if you can sometime. But we're always happy to have you live. So thank you. Signing off now.